well-established rich coming right back at you. Today's conversation is about grace. The kind of grace you don't ask for. The kind you don't deserve. The kind that shows up when your life is quiet and everybody is gone. I'm talking about Fetty Wap and 50 Cent. And what makes this story different ain't the money and it ain't the fame. It's the fact that they were not even friends. Let that sit. Fetty Wap said it himself on the Breakfast Club when he sat down after coming home.
What did 50 do?
Man, 50, so I don't even know where to start with him. 50 did a lot for me. You know what I'm saying? He from day one, it was like he reached out like, yo, whatever you need, just holler at me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, all right. And then it was like, where this money going? I'm like, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? I ain't used to that. I'm used to it's always the other way around. You know what I'm saying?
Send me the money here, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just like, it was nothing. Like whatever I needed, he was right there. Like he answered the phone. He didn't shy off. You know what I'm saying? All the way down to the time I'm about to come home. He said, yo, how you getting home and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if anything, like as far as financial and like mental like help, he was probably there the biggest.
He said, I didn't even know 50 like that. Not we was cool, not we had history. Just, I didn't even know him like that. And yet, when Fetty Wap went down, when the federal case hit, when the doors closed and the phone stopped ringing, 50 Cent was right there from day one. Not for clout, not for a post, not for a business move, just there. Answering the phone, checking on him, asking questions he wasn't used to. Where this money going? And Fetty said it himself. That confused him because he was used to people taking, not watching out. He was used to people calling when they needed something, not calling to make sure he was okay. That's a different kind of help. And this is where I want us to slow down because this story ain't really about 50 Cent. It's about how God moves through people you don't expect. See, a lot of us have been conditioned to believe that when somebody helps you, they want something back. That it comes with strings, it comes with hooks, that it comes with a future favor. And most of the time, that's true. But every once in a while, God puts something on somebody's heart. Not because you earned it, not because you asked, but because you needed it. And then they move without explanation. That's what this looks like. 50 ain't had to do that. Let's be real. He ain't owe Fetty Wap $1, a call, or a minute of his time. He wasn't his family. He wasn't a day one friend. He wasn't even in his circle. And that's why this matters. Because when help comes from outside of your circle, that's not coincidence. That's alignment. Fetty said 50 was there financially, mentally, and emotionally. All the way down to how you getting home. Think about that. Not what you gonna drop next. Not let's talk business. But how you getting home. That's human. That's somebody seeing you as a man before an asset. And some of the conversations were not soft. 50 straight up told him, stop fucking up. Told him he should have never stopped making music. He should have kept going hard. That ain't yes man talk. That's accountability. And accountability is also love. See, God don't always send comfort. Sometimes he sends correction through somebody who has nothing to gain by lying to you. And that's what this feels like. This ain't a fairy tale. This ain't a rebrand story. This is a man who lost everything, realizing somebody showed up for no reason other than it was put on his heart. And here's why this story hit me. Because if we honest, a lot of us can name somebody who did that for us. Not a parent, not a spouse, not a blood relative. Just a person, a teacher, a coworker, a neighbor, a stranger. Someone who saw us struggling and didn't wait for us to ask for help. They just stepped in. And at the time, we may not have even understood why. But looking back now, we know that was God moving quietly, using somebody else's hands to keep us from falling apart. And here's the other side of the story. Fetty acknowledging it, not acting entitled, not acting like that was normal, but saying this was different. That takes humility. And when 50 reposted that clip and said, he good, I got him, that was not bragging. That was confirmation. Sometimes God don't need a whole sermon. He just needs one man to show up for another man when the lights are off. Now let's go a deeper level, because this part ain't about celebrities, it's about character. Prison has a way of stripping everything away except for who you really are. The money stops mattering, the clout stops mattering, the introduction stops coming, and that's when you find out who was really there for you in the first place. When Fetty Wap said that 50 Cent was there for him more than anybody else in the industry, that should have stopped people cold. Not because it was 50, but because they weren't even friends. See, we expect support from people who benefited from us. Labels, managers, day ones. But when the help comes from somebody who has zero obligation, that's different. That's not strategy. That's intention. And this is where a lot of us get it twisted. We think God only moves through people we close to. We think blessings only come from familiar places. But if you really look at your life, some of the biggest blessings came out of nowhere. Somebody you didn't expect made a call, opened a door, gave you advice that saved you years of pain, and you never even asked. That's not random. That's God interrupting your trajectory. See, this is the part we don't talk about enough. Real help isn't always comfortable. Real help asks questions. Real help tells you the truth even when you're tired of hearing it. When 50 told Fetty he should have never stopped making music, that wasn't shade. That was regret turned into advice. That was somebody who's been through it saying, don't waste the talent God gave you. And here's why this story matters for everybody watching. Because most of us ain't going to jail. But all of us are going to have a season where we feel alone. A season where we feel forgotten. A season where the phone stop ringing. And in those seasons, God usually sends one person. Not a crowd, not a movement. One person. And the question is, do we recognize it when it happens? Or do we sabotage it by being suspicious? Because let's be real. A lot of us have pushed away good help thinking it had a trick to it. We assumed there was a setup, there was a price, and sometimes we were wrong. Sometimes the person was just obeying what was put on their heart. And here's the part that challenges us. This story ain't just about receiving help, it's about becoming help. Everybody wants a 50 cent in their life. But are you willing to be that person for somebody else? Not with money, not with a camera, but with attention, with time, with a phone call that says, you good? Because you don't know what that call might interrupt. You don't know what spiral it might stop. This is how God uses people. Quiet, intentionally, without announcement. And that's why this story is bigger than hip hop. It's a reminder that even in dark seasons, somebody may be watching you with compassion you didn't see coming. And sometimes that compassion is the very thing that keeps you alive long enough to start over. When you really sit with this story, it's not just about 50 and Fetty. It's about how God moves when we're at our lowest and at our least deserving. Fetty Wap lost years of his life, lost momentum, lost access. And in that silence, somebody showed up who didn't have to. Not family, not a day one, not somebody who owed him. Just a man who felt called to step in. And that's the part I want people to really understand. Blessings don't always come in the form you expect. They don't always come with a prayer circle in a church service. Sometimes they come as a phone call, as a check-in, as somebody saying, you still matter. And when Fetty acknowledged that publicly, without ego, without shame, that showed growth. Because it takes humility to say, somebody helped me when they didn't have to. A lot of people would have kept that quiet. A lot of people would have acted like they did it on their own. But gratitude is its own testimony. And here's where this story turns back on us. How many times have we been that person that could have helped somebody and we didn't? Not because we couldn't, but because we were busy, suspicious, or waiting to be asked. See, God don't always move through grand gestures. Sometimes he moves through small acts done at the right time. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of that, you know how powerful that is. You know how it can restore your faith in people, in purpose, and in yourself. This story should also remind us that we don't always know what people around us are carrying. The strong ones, the smiling ones, the ones who always look good. And sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to care without expectation for everything to change. Fetty Wap got a second chance, not just from the system, but from life. And part of that is because somebody chose to help where there was nothing to gain. That's not coincidence. That's God working through people who are willing to listen. So the question is simple. Who showed up for you when you didn't deserve it? And who can you show up for now without wanting credit? Let me know in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.